Hey, it's the Phenomenal STEMist. What's going on? Coming in live. Coming in live. Come on in here. Come on in here. I'm about to share on phenomenal financial freedom and, of course, Phenomenal STEMist. Good to see you guys. Hopefully, you can join and share and like and love. Let's see what groups I want to share this in. Phenomenal financial freedom. I know you guys asked me to unpack some things that I talked about. So let's get in here. Let's get in here. How are you all doing? Good evening. It's 7:30. I've had a busy day. Busy day. Some homework, guys. Don't forget. You gotta watch Phenomenal STEMist every first Sunday. Phenomenal First Sundays, and of course, um, buy my book on Amazon. If you're here in the Central Florida area, I actually want you to buy it straight from me. But if you are far out and you can't get to me, always can buy my book on Amazon.com. It's called The Phenomenal STEMist: How to Prepare a Successful STEM Student from the Womb to the University. Yeah. From the womb to the university. Who's with me? Who's with me? Who's with me? And of course, you can find the link on my website, um, phenomenalstemist.com. You can follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Phenomenal STEMist. That's me. All right. If you need some help with your kids, Phenomenal STEM Camp is alive and well. We have Phenomenal STEM prep for 3 months. We have for the whole year Phenomenal STEM year, and of course, in the summertime, we have Phenomenal STEM Camp. How are you guys doing? Good to see you all. Good to see you all. That's it for the advertisements. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. My mom is in the house. Good evening, Anthony. Now you know I'm going to be talking about something near and dear to my heart, and I said I would talk about it this week to my people from Phenomenal Financial Freedom. We're talking about, can education make you broke? Can education make you broke? Well, just to be clear, hey Pacific Pearl, Dr. Pacific Pearl, just to be clear, I am a highly educated person. All right. So I have a bachelor's degree in biology. I have a master's degree in the biomedical sciences, and I have a PhD in molecular pharmacology. I am highly educated, okay? So with that, I still want to discuss how education makes a lot of people broke. Am I broke? Absolutely not. It could be if you're not careful. That's right, Anthony. It could be if you're not careful. And make sure you join my group, Phenomenal Financial Freedom. I actually posted a really good article on how college students make their mistakes, the top money mistakes of that college students make. I'm gonna start with that wonderful article found in thebalance.com by Jeremy Bowinkle. Jeremy Bowinkle says there are some mistakes that students make that make them broke. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the poster meme that I put up last week about how many African American students choose their majors. All right, and we'll end there. Top money mistakes Top money mistakes college students make. What makes college educated people? Meaning, there are not a lot of people who get a college degree, and the ones that do, sometimes they make some grave mistakes financially, and they're broke because of it. What's the number one thing? Racking up credit card debt. I remember when I was in college. I went to college 25 years ago. And when I was in college, the things that the banks do now that are illegal were legal. They would set up shop in the area of registration, and they would have all kinds of gifts. Tell me you know what I'm talking about, those of you who are my age. They would have all kinds of gifts, free t-shirts. Look, I didn't Pacific I didn't see what you wrote. I said free t-shirts, and then the next thing I know, it pops up. Free t-shirts. I mean, you end up paying all kinds of money, but listen to me. There's one thing I can say about my mama. She told me the truth. She says, "Don't get a credit card. They're there to hoodwink you, bamboozle you. Don't do it." And I wasn't a perfect child, but I was obedient for the most part. Obedient for the most part. I was a grown woman. I was 18. If in theory I could have done whatever I wanted to do, but I listened to my mama, and I'm so grateful I did, because the majority of students that are in credit card debt today, it's because of those free t-shirts. Yep. They were using their credit card when they didn't need it. They were paying for bills that they didn't need, but because they had access to credit, they were using it, putting themselves in high levels of debt. And at that age, they had a high interest rate, but they didn't understand what interest rates were. Number two, ruining their credit score. College students don't know anything about paying debt on time. They're just turning 18. They don't understand. They think that they can be late with their bills and it'll be okay. Just like how they're late with homework and they ask for bonus points there's no bonus points with credit, okay? You don't pay your bills on time, you ruin your credit score. You ruin your credit score, your interest rates go up. Your interest rates go up, the debt that you have accrues more interest, and you end up paying the bank 4 times as much for that blouse that you wanted for $20. 10 years later, that thing cost you $200. Okay. A shirt that's worth $2 is costing you $200. You understand? Because you ruined your credit score. Top mistakes. That's two. Number one, getting the credit card in the first place. Number two, ruining their credit score because they don't pay bills on time. Number three, top mistakes that college students make and continue to make into their adulthood. They do not use a budget. They spend, and they do it sporadically, and they do it based on emotions, and they do it based on popularity, right? I mean, it's no different than adults. But at least adults have jobs. College students don't. They're living on debt, a lot of them, or they're living on their parents' money or their parents' debt. Parents are refinancing their homes for their children. Don't do that, parents. Parents are taking out parent plus loans for their children. Don't do that. Let the student manage their own finances. Otherwise, they'll ruin your credit and theirs. Yep. So not using a budget, just sporadic spending, basically. No goals. Number 4, we're talking about the top 5 ways or mistakes that students in college make, according to thebalance.com Jeremy Vollwinkle. Number 4, they misuse their student loan money. Jesus. They misuse their student loan money. Now, how many of you guys took out student loans? I took out student loans, but you know how much I took over 4 years? I took out 15,000. And through scholarships, Through scholarships, yeah, Anthony, you took out student loans. A lot of us did. But through scholarship and work study, I was only I only took out the Stafford student loan. I did not take out any other student loan. I didn't take out unsubsidized, Parent Plus, nothing. I took out the Stafford subsidized, and it's limiting. They only gave me $15,000 divided by four. Okay, they gave me less than $5,000 a year, and I took less than $5,000 a year. So I said, well, I'm not good. I could have gotten them subsidized. I could have asked my mama to take out a Parent Plus, but I said no. I knew intrinsically at that age that those debts were predatory or they would cost me. I knew that the Stafford subsidized, as long as I was in school, interest wouldn't run wild. And I knew I was going to be in school for 10 years. So I was able to stay in school interest free. And I said, that's the only loan I'm taking out. So that means that I couldn't get a car. That means I couldn't live off campus. I couldn't, do a lot of things because I couldn't afford to because I was only taking $3,000 or so, a little bit more than that, a year, excuse me. hmm I had to, through scholarships and work, pay my way through school with just a little bit, right? A little bit of money, approximately $3,500 per year in loans. People who have access to a lot of loan money spend it on things they don't need. I got a 10 meal plan. I didn't do the 15 meal plan, like where you're, because a lot of times, who was eating 3 times a day? I wasn't eating 3 times a day, not at the calf. So I was wasting money. So I went down from the 15 meal plan to the 12 meal plan, and that went even down to the 10 meal plan because a lot of times we eat other places. I managed my money, the little money I took out, while people I know were buying cars with their student loans. They were buying all kinds of clothes with their student loans and getting lavish apartments with their student loans. This is a mistake. And you end up doing putting yourself into grave debt for decades to come. Corey lived off campus. Corey lived off campus. And a lot of people said it was cheaper to live. I think it depends. I think a 10 mil plan on campus worked for me because I didn't have to pay insurance for my car unless you had you guys shared cars. I like the fact that I live right across the street from school. I didn't have to get up early and drive to campus. So I think, insurance, gas, the time, that was expensive to me. But a lot of people said, when they got into, multiple roommates, it was cheaper. Yeah, yeah, Corey. He had two roommates and he shared a car and he had a bike and it ended up being cheaper. Yep, there you go. But if you're not when you're taking out loans, when you're taking out loans and you're frivolous with your thinking, you overspend. You overspend and then you're in great debt. You know how many people who have student loans today, right? Off of cars they don't have. Miss Lou, lastly, this is a little bit what I'm going to talk about today. Choosing an overly expensive college. Choosing an overly expensive college. Does having a college degree matter? I think so. I believe in having a college education. I don't think everybody has to have a college education, especially if you don't want to go to college. I think trades are good. I think certifications are good. It depends on what you want to do. Do I think we need more African Americans who are college educated? Absolutely. Why we have more people in jail because judges and lawyers are not black. We don't have enough black lawyers. We don't have enough black judges. These judges that are taking overpriced they're getting paid to put people in private prisons. If you want to be a judge to change that dynamic, well, you got to go to college. You see what I'm saying? So there's some, you see you people complain about healthcare and how you go to the hospital and they treat you in a disparate way. Well, there are only 3% of black doctors are black males. If you want to be treated right, you may need to start going to medical school. And in order to go to medical school and become a physician, you got to go to college. So all of the disparities that we see in many of these professions, the answer to get rid of these disparities is to have more people of color, more black people, more African Americans in those fields. And so, damn right, I think a lot of people got to go to college for the sake of the nation. Now, does everybody have to go to college? Absolutely not. And it depends on what college you go to. Do you have to go to a university when you're an undergraduate? No. No. You're paying overpriced money for undergraduate class. In my opinion, I'm a heavy believer in the community college system. I'm a heavy believer in the state college system. I am. I definitely am. Now, I believe it. I believe also HBCUs. Like, this is just my opinion. Like, I went to a HBCU. It's a definite helpful cradle for African American males, especially because when you go to these institutions, these state institutions, public universities, state colleges, community college, ask them what are the retention rates for black males, and they are horrendous. So yeah, you could go to a cheap community college, but how many? Ask yourself, people who how many people look like you actually finish in 2, 3 years tops? When you go, I was looking at UNCF, United Negro College Fund. Students that get UNCF, which go to HBCUs, 70% graduate within 5, 6 years, between the 4 to 6 year mark. 70%. You know how many do that at public universities? 40. And in STEM, the numbers are worse. So I'm a believer in HBCUs just because the track record of graduating African Americans are great, right? But outside of HBCUs, I'm not a fan of other types of universities um undergraduate for African Americans. I think that especially private ones, they're very, very costly for the same information, right? So you could go to a less expensive university, a less expensive college, and get, especially at the undergraduate level, the same information. Sometimes better because community colleges focus on pedagogy, teaching. I teach, for instance, I teach me with the PhD and the postdoctoral fellowship in neuroscience. I teach my biology students. You go to a university across town, do you know who teaches the biology students? TAs, people who just getting their master's degree, right? Just learning how to teach. I've been teaching 15 years. So don't underestimate the quote unquote less expensive institution, especially for certain degrees, because you're paying all this money and you're not getting a ROI. We call it a return on investment. You pay so much money, hundreds of $1,000s for a degree that can only pay you $40,000. You might as well have gone to a public university and gone for free, because by public universities in your state, public universities in your state pretty much pay your way between the Pell Grants and the, like, for instance, for Florida, they have Bright Futures, and then you have the state level tuition. You're going to school debt free when you stay home and go to a public university versus going to a private university that's not necessarily a HBCU and get stuck like Chuck. So speaking about that, so that was just a segue into return on investment in regards to college life, as Corey Walker says. College life, right? I want to show you this. I'm going to share my screen, and it's a PowerPoint slide. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of small, but maybe I should just make it larger and make me smaller. So I'm making me much smaller. So African American college majors. Talking about, can college make you broke? All right. So when you look at the college majors and earnings, um, there is a type of degree that African Americans tend to major in. And you look at it, I'm gonna blow this up a little bit so I can see it as I teach you. Yeah. So African Americans tend to be overrepresented in low incur- income or low earning majors. So, what are the top 10 majors by percentage of African American bachelor's degree holders? Health and medical administration services, human services and community organization, social work, public administration, criminal justice, sociology, computer information systems, human resources management, interdisciplinary sciences, social sciences, and pre-law. All right, and you look at how much those majors earn. If you look below, you'll see most of the majors that African Americans major in: education, human services, community services, etc. They pay between $38 to $40,000. Theology and physical fitness or health sciences, not necessarily going into medicine, but just fitness and wellness. These type of degrees make between 38 and 42,000. So can you imagine paying a lot of money for institution and then only making 30 to 40,000, right? The high level earnings that African Americans major in, if they go to pharmacy and engineering and chemical engineering and electrical engineering and mechanical engineering and computer engineering and civil engineering. Look, most of the high earners in our field between 80 and 70,000 is a lot of engineering, and then nursing and pharmacy, and and computer sciences. So that's STEM, guys. Science, technology. Like, you can't be a nurse if you don't take biology and anatomy and physiology and microbiology. Those are the three prereqs in college before you can be a nurse. You feel me? So though these are great fields for African Americans, most African Americans do not go into these fields. They go into the low earners. Now, are you saying that you can't have a degree in social work and do well? Absolutely not. I know some people who have degrees, master's degrees in social work, that are doing very well. You know where they're working though? They're working in the hospital system. A lot of them, or they're running their own businesses, so they have entrepreneurship. But in terms of just working, I've seen offerings of people in like the mental health field as low as less than minimum wage for in Seattle, like $20,000 a year. Okay, so it's unfortunately a lot of the degrees that people like me choose are low earning. Now, why is STEM so important? I'm talking about this connection to finances. The median income for Black people in this country is about $32,000 a year. You know why? Because they're choosing low earning salaries. Either they're not educated, or when they get educated, they're choosing careers that don't pay. And if you go into an expensive college, you're putting yourself into a lot of debt through credit cards and other things, then your net worth goes down because you have all this debt and you don't have any money to take yourself out of the debt. So there are educated people who have low net worths because they're making money. They're making the medium. If you're making $38,000 as a college graduate and somebody who's not a college graduate is making 32, it's not like, what's the point of going to college, you say? All right. And there's such a great income gap, $20,000 less than whites, just because. But if you have a degree in STEM, look at that. The median income for a black person in STEM is $75,000. $75,000 a year if you have a degree in STEM: science, technology, engineering, mathematics. This is significant, guys. There's a STEM significance. Should everybody major in STEM? No, but a lot of people should, because I just need us to get back to what we our workforce levels. So if you look at white people, they are 66% of the workforce and 70% of the STEM workforce. They are overrepresented in STEM. If you look at Asian people, look, they're only 5.5% of this country. Yet 15% of the workforce in STEM, they are there are more Asian people in STEM that should be according to representation of the population. That means we're missing some. Meaning, look, black people, we're about 10% of the workforce. I think 20%. If you're this is according to the census, and of course, a lot of us don't fill out the census. Look at the gap. There are only 6.4% African Americans in STEM compared to the 10 to 15% of the population. Worse for Hispanics. 15% of the working force and only 6% of them are in STEM. Just a shift, guys. Listen to me. Just a shift. I'm going to stop sharing. In going from 6% to 10%. If I can get a 4% increase where black people will decide to go into engineering and math and science, technology, computer sciences, if I could just get a 4% shift, all that 4% of people will be making on median $75,000 a year. Do you know the economic boom that would come into our communities? If we could now just have at least 10% of black people in STEM, that will dramatically boom our communities. It would. If Latinos, who are 50% of the workforce, right now only 6% in STEM, if there was a jump where a whole bunch of Latinos decide that they want to go into science, technology, engineering, and math, and it will now be 16% of the workforce in STEM, can you imagine the economic boom for the Latino community? Because everybody will be making double what they make normally, over double what they make normally. It's about what we choose a lot of the time, guys. We just can't go to college just to go to college. And we definitely shouldn't go to an expensive college. Shout out to Pacific Pro. She wanted to go to Oakwood, but she couldn't afford it. So she decided to stay home in New York. She went to Brooklyn College. They call it the Harvard of Brooklyn. Shout out to Medgar Evers, But yeah, Brooklyn College is an awesome institution. Awesome institution. And my institution is like a state college. It's the similar, CUNY, City University of New York State College. It's like a state college. So she went on scholarships and she graduated debt free. Debt free. Yep. You can do it. Now I love Oakwood though, so shout out to Oakwood. I love HBCUs. I think they cradle especially African Americans very well, and there's a higher percentage of graduation rates uh and networking that comes through graduating through a HBCU. But if I didn't go to a HBCU, you're right, I would have went to a state institution. Absolutely. And HBCUs better get their act together, because these state institutions are starting to really focus on making sure that they are helping minorities. They're calling themselves minority serving institutions, and they're getting their act together. So Like, listen, they're getting some competition. So can education make you broke? Yep. Education can make you broke if you don't follow proper protocols while you're there. If you let's talk, I told you the top 5 mistakes. If you get a credit card in the first place, if you don't spend properly and you don't pay off your bills well and you ruin your credit score, if you don't use a budget, you end up doing that. If you misuse your student loan money, overpriced, buying things that you don't need, and then you choose an overly expensive college for a major that doesn't have a return on investment, yeah, you will go broke. Yeah. So you have to make decisions. You can't just go to school just to say you go to school and just take classes just to take classes. What is your plan? I am debt free today because I had a great nurturing and network at my HBCU institution, Oakwood University. I did well in college and I went to graduate school debt free, meaning they paid for me to go to graduate school. That's another thing. There are a lot of people that are getting these PhDs. Let me tell you something about a PhD. A PhD should be paid for. You shouldn't be paying for a PhD. If you're being recruited by somebody, it's like, oh, you should get your doctorate. It's not gonna listen. Not PhD are for scholars that are focused on academia for the most part. Scholars that are focused on academia. And usually the institution wants to pray for your brilliant mind because you're such a scholar. They want to develop your brilliant mind so that you can develop new scholars. That's the purpose of a doctorate in philosophy, truly. And so they're going to say, let me pay you for your mind and your talent and your time. So they paid me, not just me, everybody that got accepted into Albert Einstein College of Medicine into the PhD program. They paid them. They waived their tuition and they gave them a stipend. If you're going to institutions and they're like, well, you got to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a PhD, yeah, online and all that stuff, they're ask yourself, after I get this degree, how much money, extra money, am I going to make because I have this degree? If the answer is not a lot, then don't do it. Because all you're doing is lowering your net worth. You're putting yourself in grave amounts of debt for money that you can't dig out. You don't have money to dig out of that debt. It's a business. Education has become big business. So make sure when you choose education, it's for your benefit and your community's benefit, not the big business. All right, guys, it's been wonderful talking to you. Just to remind you, my book, The Phenomenal STEMist, How to Prepare a Successful STEM Student from the Womb to the University, is now on Amazon. If you're free, if you're here, you get a signed copy from me directly. Don't order from Amazon. All right, you guys have a great evening. See ya.